once again reiterated that the judgment in the Kulbhushan Jadhav case is binding, final, and without appeal. Pakistan has been dragging its feet on Jadhav for a very long time now. And in another sham move, Pakistan government has moved the Islamabad High Court seeking to appoint a council for Kulbhushan Jadhav in order to implement the ICJ verdict. Last week, Pakistan had granted India consular access to Kulbhushan Jadhav. However, India remained dissatisfied with the meeting. The Indian government has said that the access was neither meaningful nor credible, and death row prisoner Kulbhushan Jadhav appeared visibly under stress. Kulbhushan Jadhav, the 50-year-old retired Indian Navy officer, was sentenced to death by a Pakistani military court on charges of espionage and terrorism in April 2017. India approached the International Court of Justice against Pakistan for denial of consular access to Jadhav and challenging the death sentence. We'll talk about this. It's been lingering on for quite some time. Like I said earlier, that Pakistan has been dragging its feet when it comes to Kulbhushan Jadhav. They have also ignored and avoided the direct order of the International Court of Justice, and we all know how they in fact fell to their face in Hague. Joining me on the broadcast to talk more about this is Ambassador Deepak Bora, former diplomat, former Secretary Ministry of External Affairs, Major General Dhruv Katoch, defense and strategic expert, director of the India Foundation. Sumit Peer, political analyst, also joins us to talk more about this. And last but not the least, Arvind Singh. He's Kulbhushan Jadhav's friend. In fact, Arvind, let me start by asking you a very simple question that, we are dealing with Pakistan in this case. Justice, equality, balance, sovereignty. Now, these are all virtues that Pakistan thinks are perhaps planets. And, they would never want to go there. What do you think is going to be the final resolution to what the ICJ has ordered? What kind of more intervention is required, perhaps from the UN or from India, to make sure that this man is brought back to India? Because all the charges against him, Arvind, as you and I know, are phony, baseless, and fabricated.
Precisely. In fact, this is the golden opportunity Pakistan, I believe, has to show the world that by, doing something very right, they can actually reclaim reclaim in the sense, they can be bit seen as a positive country. But unfortunately, the way they have been doing things, I don't think they will be actually doing any of these things. India actually needs to be very, very, very strong, need to have a very strong approach for this particular case. ICJ as well as the UN, as you said. They, by any means, they have to actually put a lot of pressure, because ultimately Pakistan, as we have seen, even in this council access thing, discussion, they have not agreed to they want to have a conditional thing only. So probably, India needs to actually be a bit more, strong in their approach.
Okay, we have to be strong in our approach. Ambassador Bora, Pakistan has on a number of occasions breached the obligations which have been encumbered under the Article 36 of the Vienna Convention. But what do they know of convention? What do they know of propriety? What can be expected from Pakistan but twisting and tweaking facts and misrepresenting this man? Now they've put up a case in the Islamabad court. And it appears to be, in fact, even more insulting. It's like adding injury to insult when Pakistan goes about doing such a thing.
Mr. Malhotra, thank you again for this opportunity to interact with you and these wonderful minds. Mr. Singh, I understand exactly what you're saying, that this is a golden opportunity for Pakistan to show that it has some kind of respect for international law. But then, no one has ever accused the Pakistanis of being smart people. No one has ever said that. Sir, you've talked about the convention. It's very clear that we need access, etc., etc. But it's equally clear that this issue between India and Pakistan pertaining to this outstanding son of India, Commander Kulbhushan Jadhav, is a bilateral issue. Across the world, not many countries would even know what is going on over here. Now, of course, it's become international because we've gone to the International Court of Justice. So a purely bilateral issue acquires an international dimension. For example, when that butcher of Mumbai, Ajmal Kasab, was hanged, nobody really cared that he was hanged, not even his family in Pakistan that had disappeared. But now this has become something on a much larger canvas, a much wider canvas. And Pakistan will not be able to carry out its threat to execute this child of India so easily. They can, of course, take the opinion that, look, our international reputation is so low that now we'll have to dig a hole to take it any lower, so we don't care. I don't believe that they have reached that stage yet. China has, but they haven't. So it's possible that they will try they will respond to international pressure. India will take the lead in briefing all friendly countries, all countries of the world, that this is an international judgment. It's a judgment by an institution, by an agency of a thing called the United Nations, which may be 75 years old, but nevertheless, it's the only business that we have today that brings countries together. So I believe they are going to find it very difficult, and I want to reassure Mr. Singh that India will do whatever it can to bring its son home.
Thank you. Thank you. That's what is expected. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. General Katoch, the ICJ has given a verdict. They want it to be adhered to. In a case when this is not done by Pakistan, what are the ways in which it can be reinforced and by whom?
You see, the question of enforcing a decision made by the United States, I think, is a very difficult one. Because if Pakistan doesn't enforce it, well, what can you do? You see, well, the West can get together and impose sanctions. Beyond that, what can they do? Because Pakistan still is a sovereign country. Please remember, in 1971, when millions of people were slaughtered, the United Nations could do nothing. Right? See amount of people who were raped and their houses were destroyed again in 1971. And the shame of it all was that when an American journalist, a lady, when she questioned the army, the Pakistani army chief in East Pakistan, General Niazi at that time, and she questioned him about rape, the response of the Pakistani general was, "Do you expect me to send my troops back to Lahore to have sex?" Now, he actually sanctified the gruesome act of rape, murder, and loot in what was happening in this and then East Pakistan and now Bangladesh. See what they have done in Fatah, in the federally administered tribal areas in North Waziristan, where the Pakistani Air Force and the tanks and the artillery of the army has razed to the ground a complete city. See what they have done, as we discussed yesterday, what they have done in Balochistan, where both a physical and a cultural genocide is carrying on. Now, if they have done this to the people whom they consider as their own, then to expect any element of, any element of decency as far as Commander Jadhav is concerned, I think will be stretching things too far. Please remember, Commander Jadhav was kidnapped in Iran. He was brought inside Balochistan, given a farcical trial by the Pakistan military, which is illegal in every single sense of the word, and sentenced to death. Now, I think the message which has to be given to Pakistan from the Indian side is perhaps a very strong diplomatic message that the consequences of going ahead with this farcical trial, and if you actually process it and actually carry out the sentence of death, then the consequences to Pakistan will be very, very heavy. And I think that has to be made very clear. It may even lead to the dismemberment of Pakistan. They cannot be allowed to get away with a cold-blooded murder of an Indian citizen. And I think that is the message that we should give. I'm absolutely sanguine that the world body will support the Indian stand.
Sumit, what kind of a leverage is Pakistan achieving, through this farcical trial of Kulbhushan Jadhav? What kind of a brownie point is Pakistan, getting out of this? They in fact have freed some of our POWs in the past, and a lot of them have had, more serious cases against them in that particular country, or more serious cases that Pakistan perhaps accused them of. What do you think Pakistan is going to leverage out of keeping Kulbhushan Jadhav for so long? Do you think it is just troubling India is what's on their agenda?
I think, Vineet, the point here is that what General Saab rightly said and what the Ambassador Sir rightly said, you see, this Pakistan has been, incidentally, I want to mention one thing. General Saab mentioned about just General Niazi. Now, Imran Khan Niazi is the nephew of General Niazi, who did the biggest and the most humiliating surrender with 93,000 troops. So Imran Khan does not write Niazi at the back, but that's the dynasty, that's the bloodline he comes from. Now, there's a freedom struggle in Balochistan. There's a freedom struggle which is happening which Balochis are doing. Now, incidentally, what General Saab rightly said, they act one of our businessmen. He's an ex-Navy guy. He's a retired now. He was in business. They catch him from Iran, smuggle him into Pakistan, and want to frame him some kind of an Indian spy and say, look, India is kind of abating this movement in Balochistan. But they fail to understand how can one person from India build up a storm like this? We are not running any terrorist camps. We are not doing anything. Then you take him to a kangaroo court, and unfortunately, Commander Jadhav has become a pawn, Vinny. The word is a political pawn, wherein Pakistan wants to prove some kind of Indian involvement in Balochistan. While it is a freedom struggle, the Balochis want freedom. You kill their people, you rape their women, you steal minerals from them, you use helicopter gunships against them, you throw from a helicopter. And what you want to pin it all down on? You want to pin it down on an innocent Indian called Commander Jadhav. Unfortunately, he was kidnapped from Iran. The point is, he was not even in Pakistan. Now, a person, an Indian in Iran, how can he, kind of influence your struggle? Is he mobilizing thousands of people? Is he supplying arms? What is his charge? And the most important thing is, when the ICJ said, whatever the decision is, it is binding. So the Pakistan has to listen to this. But my take on it is, the Jihadis, Wahhabi, Pakistani, Sunni army is not going to listen to anybody, because unki izzat ka sawal hai. They have unfortunately found one person on which they can put the whole blame and become heroes. Now, the only leverage which India has, we have a lot of Pakistanis here. We have a lot of leverage points over Pakistan, which can be military, economic, diplomatic, and covert. So I think we have to send out a message to them. If anything happens to Commander Jadhav, by any reasons whatsoever, direct, indirect, you don't say he committed a suicide, don't say somebody attacked him. If anything, if God forbid, he loses his life in Pakistan, this is our options. This is we can use. They can be covert military, anything. And let's not forget, Vineet, we have a lot of Pakistanis with us. And, then it is how you send the message to a rogue military regime. Because diplomatic channels, liberal means, United Nations, ICJ, वो जहादियों को समझ नहीं आता. Unpad jihadis, madrasa educated people don't understand this. This is for the civilized communities. So how do you expect them to understand this? Madrasa educated, you have some people who are madrasa educated doctors from there. Like they say Masood Azhar is a madrasa educated PhD. So, this is the kind of militia you're dealing with. You're not dealing with a country. You're not dealing with the army. You're dealing with a Wahhabi militia. So the only thing which works with them, if you do this, this is our list. We can exercise any to all of these options. And this is what is going to have ramifications on you. And last point, unless and until we find a way to cause ramifications on the army of Pakistan, because this is all done by army and ISI. So if you can find a way, if they can pay for it, they will come to table, they will negotiate everything, because the fundamental point is, sir, Commander Jadhav has done nothing. You have kidnapped him from Iran for the sake of God. And you think all the trouble all the trouble happening in Balochistan is done by one person? Then you are grossly incompetent. Your army ko you're not army. If one person can bring us,
you made a very compelling and a very fine point, Sumit. And Ambassador Vora, we really need to change our tactics when we deal with Pakistan. In fact, expecting any kind of a decency from them or asking them to observe any of the international protocols is a mistake that we've been making ourselves. Is it like taking a knife to a gunfight while dealing with Pakistan? We need to, in fact, alter the way we've dealt with them, like Sumit pointed out, because it is a Wahhabi militia.
Mr. Peer's passion comes across very clearly in what he has just said. So does Mr. Singh's and the generals. The Pakistani army is aware of human rights, except they spell it RITES, which means rights of birth or death or baptism or whatever it is. But they haven't heard about the rights that you and I talk about. It's very simple, sir. In international relations, when you wish to convey your displeasure, there's always a ladder of escalation. We have conveyed the displeasure by already, not just for Commander Jadhav, but over a whole host of issues. Trade relations have been suspended, diplomatic relations are in limbo, etc., etc. Militarily, we are hitting where we should. Now, I believe the time has come to further escalate the campaign that we are doing internationally, to isolate Pakistan and to tell the world, have you guys heard of a philosophy called terrorism? I mean, China and Pakistan are the only two countries. The rest of the world said this Azhar fellow is a terrorist. The Chinese and the Pakis say, oh, no, he's a great scholar. Well, happy birthday. That's the kind of opinion that you have about this fellow. God bless you. May he not bless you. But the reality here, sir, is that this gradual escalation is going to produce results. I'm personally very confident that when the whole world turns around and we brief them, they are not interested in this. I mean, it's not on their immediate radar screen. They'll say it's a bilateral issue, but it is now an international issue. And therefore, they have to be told that this kind of cavalier disregard of a UN agency, when they themselves were screaming all the time, UN resolutions on Kashmir, 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 but here is a UN agency giving you a resolution. Why don't you implement it? Double standards, your other name is Pakistan.
Right, Arvind. You're a friend of Kulbhushan Jadhav, and in your opinion, I'm sure he's not the kind of a person who's going to leave any stone unturned when it comes to his freedom. What do you think the Pakistanis are in fact using against him? To try and make him, more in favor of what the Pakistani want him to do. Because that's the reason why they have their presence whenever the Indians have tried to talk to him. Do you think there's something that they're using against Kulbhushan Jadhav, which perhaps is not letting him free up in front of the Indian embassy representatives? Arvind?
Probably yes, because what Sumit Peer actually said. Yeah, hello. Can you hear me, sir?
Yeah.
Okay. Probably yes, because what Sumit Peer said, he has been used as a pawn. He has been used as a pawn kind of thing, probably for whatever reason. I mean, the best thing is all big people will know about it. But in looking at the thing, what he was doing, he was actually a normal businessman conducting business in Iran and has been abducted. So probably I don't know what they want actually. But then they just want to create an hype around him. He has been targeted as such, and they want to achieve something. I'm not very sure about it, but then that's the intention, what I guess. Had it not been the case, they would have probably, the way Pakistan is, they would have executed him long back, 3 years back.
Absolutely.
Before
Yeah. Absolutely. And General Katur, that's the point that we are also driving to make, that if Pakistan wanted, to not have Kulbhushan Jadhav around, they would have done it under some bogus pretense. Why are they using him as a leverage when they, as is, find themselves cornered on a multiple number of fronts, not only from India, but from across the world as well?
Actually, Vineet, if they wanted to use him as a leverage, let us say for exchange purposes, then they wouldn't have declared that they had captured him. You see, it would have been a black operation. He would have been kept there. There would have been negotiations carried out under the table. The Pakistanis would have said, okay, we've got this man of yours. You please give us so-and-so back, right? And then at some point of time, an exchange will take place. Now, in this particular case, actually, they announced it. And announcing it, I think the aim was very simple. I think this was what both Ambassador Vora and Sumit Peer were trying to have very clearly stated. You see, they want to pin the tag of terrorism onto India somehow, so that India could be equated with Pakistan. That, okay, we are doing something in Kashmir, but you are also doing something in Balochistan. They wanted to have something like that to actually tell the world. But unfortunately for them, you see, this has no takers in the world, because when you see the Balochistan insurgency, it started first in 47, it went again for a year in 48, then 63 to 64, then 73 to 77, then 2002 till date. This is the fifth insurgency which is going on, and it is, the whole world knows it, that because these things can't be hidden really, right? This is indigenous, it has come up from the roots. Now, for a country like Pakistan, who could murder by the judicial process a former prime minister of theirs, who was at one time a very popular leader, who could assassinate in cold blood in a car another former prime minister, I think for a country like that to even expect any semblance of justice, it is stretching the imagination too far. Today, I think Pakistan finds itself in a corner. They are not going to be swayed by any emotions of justice. The only thing which can sway them is a sense of retribution. If you do this, there will be very severe consequences. That obviously cannot be made in the public domain. Those things, I believe, will be done at some level, appropriately at the diplomatic level and well below the radar. But I think that is a message which has to go to them, it is unacceptable. We will not accept the judicial murder of an Indian citizen the way you have carried out a judicial murder of your former prime minister. It is unacceptable to us. It may be acceptable, a judicial murder of a prime minister to the people of Pakistan. This is not acceptable to the people of India. I think if that message goes strong enough and we bide our time, hopefully the situation in the years to come may change.
Absolutely, and that's exactly what they did to Zulfikar Ali Bhutto. Not sure if Imran Khan Sumit is ready to meet the same fate, but if it depends on the deep state and the Pakistani army, he would have been cornered a long time ago. But they need him. They need him as a dummy. They need him as a puppet to, in fact, take all the blame, take all the abuses, and in fact, fall flat on his back for all the mistakes that Pakistan is going to make. But yet again, it brings us to the question: is Pakistan going to be disturbed, Sumit, by retribution?
I think we need. I have an interesting point about Imran Khan because I love him so much. Not that way. He's the person who said that Germany and Japan have a common border. Usne geography dunya ki return kar li. They set a foundation stone of a dam, and he said, now we don't need to import water. If you're talking this as the Prime Minister of Pakistan, then God save not the Pakistan, not just save the world. Because he's literally, I don't know what is the proper word in English to keep him there. Because he is not even a puppet. He's that scarecrow. Puppets still have some movement. Scarecrow is just kept like that. So I call him a scarecrow. Now, point number 2 is you have to go and talk to the people who control Pakistan. It's ISI and the army, which is a rogue army. The only thing they understand, what we have done from Balakot, from surgical strikes, if you hit us once, we'll hit you 3 times. You kill one person, we'll kill 20 of yours. You touch our one bunker, we'll go and dismantle 20 of yours. Unless an retribution, or what you call the problems, walk to the army and to the ISI, to them, to their families, to their door, they are not going to change. And one thing is very sure, we need Mr. Jadhav is a businessman whom you have abducted in Iran. And if you try to do anything to him, if he dies for any reasons whatsoever in Pakistan, it will be a state-sponsored murder of an innocent Indian citizen. That is what we have to make very explicit. He has nothing to do with so-called espionage and all. We don't suppose terrorism. And problem in Balochistan is freedom struggle. It started before the time Jadhav was born. What General Sahab rightly said, 47 mein to paida bhi nahi hua tha bhai. So if you think you can attribute everything to Jadhav, you are living in a fool's paradise. That's the best I can say about Imran Khan. Well, he lives in that, obviously.
Right, and let's not forget, Ambassador Vora, that India and China are engaged, in the process of de-escalation right now, and Pakistan perhaps has found these new wings that they think that they can use to somehow, mess with India, for the lack of a better word, because they feel we are distracted at one end, we will never pay heed to what's going on in this end. But they're absolutely wrong, because we have eyes on our back as well, and Pakistan is a backstabber.
You're absolutely right, Mr. Malhotra. There's an English idiom, cutting off one's nose to spite one's face, and that is really what they're doing with Commander Kulbhushan Jadhav. Of course, India will do what it can to prevent him, but I can't resist saying that somewhere deep inside me, I have a kind of perverse pleasure that one son of India can detach all of Balochistan from Pakistan. Imagine what 130 crore Indians can do. That's the indirect message that they're giving to their people. Of course, we'll do what we have to. Of course, Pakistan is in a total mess and knows it. They're clutching at straws. And if anybody there is hallucinating, I don't know what drugs they take, that because we are occupied with China on our borders, that they'll be able to do what they have to. Oh, brother, go to sleep and wake up in the morning. Wake up into a real world, not in the la-la land of Alice in Wonderland. Not at all, sir.
Absolutely. And Ambassador Vora, thank you for concluding this debate in the wonderful manner that only you can. Gentlemen, thank you for being a part of this debate.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.